Well, hello. The betrothal and marriage of Mary and Joseph. She saw in your soul's garden the pure lilies stand, and knew God made you worthy to touch her pure hand. When at last the period of Mary's temple training was completed, the high priest again sought guidance in the sanctuary. Arrayed in the apparel. Sorry, Bert texting over here. I did tell you to mind text me. My fault, I guess. I got your text. Arrayed in the apparel set apart for prayer, he entered the Holy of Holies and made supplication concerning Mary. What shall we do with her? The reply came that all the men of the house of David connected with the temple service be assembled, and that Mary be given to the man to whom a certain sign should be shown. The ancient legend tells us, it came to pass when they were gathered together, Joseph was found with them. And as they were waiting, behold, a snow-white dove went forth from the sanctuary and alighted upon the top of Joseph's staff, which had sprung into blossom, and then flew upon his head, after which it went black and entered into the temple and into the sanctuary. Then all the people cried out, saying, God is righteous in all his ways, for there is no man here who is so closely akin to Mary as Joseph, and it is meet that she should belong to him. And then, we don't like that word belong, huh? No. But what does it mean? It means that their energies match. Yeah. There is astrology for this, yeah. But their energies, yeah. And then we find the significant comment. Now they did not know the mystery which was hidden in the matter. According to the occult tradition, both Mary and Joseph were Essenes. What is that? Essenes. 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 The Essenes were previously observed an ascetic set into whose care were trusted the secret books of Israel, which were committed to writing by the great initiate Ezra in the mystical field of Adrath at Babylon several hundred years previously. These writings were at first confided to the care of the great synagogue, the school of initiation, formed by Ezra through various vicissitudes. The bulk of the mystery books eventually came into the hands of the brotherhood known from Hellenistic times as the Essenes, who included in their number the great founders of Christianity. The Essenes were divided into two groups, the householders and the temple initiates. The householders married and set up homes and the villages and cities in the usual way of life, where they made practical demonstration of the Holy Temple teaching of their Immaculate Conception, preparing themselves through strict spiritual discipline for the sanctity of parenthood, with the object of attracting advanced egos, sparkle bodies, from the heaven world, who should further work of the order of the humanity generally. The growing ones, yeah. The more esoteric groups conspired the initiates who had taken the vow of perpetual purity and held themselves unspotted of the world, living, and usually in isolated monastic communities where they could devote the whole life of the things of spirit. Some of these, however, might be found in the towns and cities when a special work was to be done, and some lived in the temple precincts in Jerusalem itself and performed duties necessary to the temple worship according to the commands of custom and tradition. These initiate brethren were taught the mysteries of the fire mist in the human body, its nature, its origin, and the way of its ascent to the head. They are to be used in various kinds of mental, spiritual, creative activity and to stimulate the functions of the pineal and pituitary glands, whose awakening makes man more than man, people more than people. Wake up your star body. The presence of these two spiritual organs in the head was known to the ancient initiates, and referenced to them are still to be found in the writings of the Church Father Hippolytus, who, not being himself a believer of the mysteries, was always attempting to discredit them. He nevertheless has done the service of preserving an ancient description of the organs in the head, which, as he states, were likened to organs of generation, the head itself being linked to the marriage chamber, the connection between our star bodies and this one. Therefore, there in the brain, the serpent fire has its true home, but descends by way of the medulla oblongata through the spine to the lower organs of physical generation. Modern autonomists know that the pituitary body in particular has an intimate connection with the reproductive function, and occult autonomists know that it has an equally intimate connection with generation and the fruition of spiritual powers. Mary and Joseph belonged to the highest initiatory order. Hence, the greater was their sacrifice in going out into the world to be afflicted with the lesser degree of the householders. The holy purity heart of Mary could be wedded only to another whole, pure, sparkle heart. St. Ambrose writes that theirs was the perfect love mating as the great saint was betrothed to the lily of Israel. Early legends state that Joseph was a man in the prime of life and not an old man as generally described. The great age conferred upon him is purely symbolical, having to do with his high wisdom rather than with the numbers of his years. In accordance with the ancient legends, Joseph was the son of prosperous parents who lived upon a beautiful estate near Bethlehem. Joseph was entirely different from his more worldly brothers, who often made sport of his extreme simplicity and utter humility, and were deeply chagrined that he made no effort to get ahead in the world. Far from his early years, Joseph had been conscious of angelic communications. His life had been guided by those celestial beings, and he knew no other interest than to strive for spiritual attainment. High five, Joseph! At the age of about 12 or 13, Joseph dedicated himself wholly to a life of chastity, holiness, and prayer. When he reached the age of 20, he went to live alone in a small house in Tiberias beside the Lake of Galilee, and here worked as a carpenter's assistant. As the years passed, he increased in both piety and wisdom, and gave himself increasingly day by day unto prayer and ecstatic visions and angelic communications. When in these visions instructions were given to him to proceed to the temple in Jerusalem. He obeyed the command without question. Joseph was at this time 33 years of age, prepossessing in manner, handsome in appearance, and radiant with light which the illuminated Spirit alone can give. His contemporaries estimated his high attainment rightly when they declared that no other man was so closely attuned to the pure Mary. His entire life had been one of prayer and preparation, dedicatory to his sublime mission as the companion of Mary. He is said to have resembled the angels with whom, like Mary, he held a closer communication than with men. The mating of these two initiates of the Essenian order is truly a love dream, rare and beautiful among the dreams of men, incomparably tender and filled with gentleness. An ancient Greek hymn refers to Joseph as more than a saint, for only such could espouse Mary, who was privileged beyond an archangel's dream. St. Ambrose writes again, "They were one in mind, heart, and spirit, for Joseph had also taken the vow of perpetual purity." Jerome, who lived and studied for 30 years in Bethlehem in preparation for his vision of the Bible, Latin and Vulgate, and who had access to many ancient manuscripts descriptive of the Holy Family, states that there existed a true and pure marriage between Mary and Joseph, and that this marriage occurred previously in the incarnation of Jesus. This statement of Jerome is sustained by occult investigation. Even after the angelic annunciation, the blessed pure spirit was surrounded with and radiated such a glory that she literally walked in the light. For this reason, we were able to stand in her presence. Ambrose says that Joseph left her not because loved her. It says left. Ambrose says that Joseph left her not because of her unworthiness, but because, pure and holy as he was, even he felt himself unworthy to be near her in this sacred time. Xavier's Persian history of Christ, though somewhat discredited in modern research, contains a number of interesting traditions, among which is the following description of the person of the Blessed Virgin. Mary was of moderate height and light complexion. Her eyes were large, verging toward blue, her hair auburn, her hands and fingers long and beautiful, her figure symmetrical in every part, her language most particularly pleasing, her aspect modern and benign. So much glory and majesty appeared in her person that when the wicked viewed her countenance, they reflected and withdrew, and were made different persons. All loved and praised and thought much of her for the excellence and sweetness of her manner, and for her humility. Largely, her conversation in public and private was of such goodness and dignity because it's the Messiah's mother. such as goodness and dignity, became the Messiah's mother. The mystery of the Immaculate Conception. 15 minutes. Okay, let's keep going. Are they going to talk about this part where it says that Joseph left her? Are we going to talk about that? Is this a real book? Or is this part of the game? What does that mean? We're going to read it anyway because it's fantastic. The mystery of the Immaculate Conception. The most profound mystery connected with human evolution is that of the Immaculate Conception. Its truths have been veiled purposely from the mass mind, which is utterly incapable of comprehending it. The rite of the Immaculate Conception has always been a part of the mysteries. But as the ever-deepening materialism of the race has closed, one by one, the doors of the mystery schools, so also has the term Immaculate Conception come to bear no special significance. I think we should read that again, but read it slower. The most profound mystery connected with human evolution is that of the Immaculate Conception. Its truths have been veiled purposely from the mass mind. Until now, which is utterly incapable of comprehending it. Well, that's not true anymore, huh? Look at how time passes. The rite of the Immaculate Conception has always been a part of the mysteries. But as the ever-deepening materialism of the race has closed one by one the doors of the mystery schools, right? They want our gold. So also has the term Immaculate Conception eventually come to bear no special significance. So she's saying that Immaculate Conception doesn't mean anything more because the gold that people have wanted in the past from religion. So mystery schools, all the religions, all the ways, the doors have been closed because of that. Well, I like that things are changing. The rite of the Immaculate Conception must therefore be restored to its rightful place in human understanding. And this will come about when, in the new age, it is again an integral and important part of the spiritual life of people. For then, truths formerly taught secretly to the few in the temples will be again given open and freely to all those who seek them. The nadir of materialism has been reached. Henceforward, human evolution proceeds upon the ascending arc. Every experience in the life of Christ parallels a similar experience in the life of the Christian man, as will be shown more fully in succeeding chapters. Suffice it to say here that each aspirant, as he qualifies for it, passes through the rite of the Immaculate Conception. A long period of preparation is necessary for so high an achievement, a period extending through many lifetimes. However, there are those among modern Christians who are now aware of this fact and who have already begun to work definitely toward its accomplishment in some future earth embodiment. The early alchemists gave out a profound truth when they declared that the living stone, the New Age body, was to be formed in the union of the sun and the moon. It is within the two crown jewels which adorn the head, the pineal and pituitary glands, that this divine work is primarily consummated. A veritable germ of light, a sun seed, forms in the pineal gland of every human being. It is a part of the divine or christened heritage. However, this seed of light remains dormant and lies fallow until one is wise enough to know how to use it. As the aspirant becomes sufficiently dedicated and spiritualized each year, immediately after the summer solstice, this sun seed begins an annual circuit through the body, simulating the path of the sun in its course through the heavens. The currents of life in people and nature are always in accord with the people themselves, unless people disturb that harmony. By the autumn equinox, the sun seed reached the heart center, and at the winter solstice, as the sun arrives at its southernmost declination, it touches the solar plexus. It is for this reason that in the ancient mysteries, the solar plexus center was termed the manger of the human body temple. Following the accent of the sun, the light germ again touches the heart center at the time of the spring equinox, and at the summer solstice it is lifted to its home in the pineal gland as the sun attains its northernmost position once more. During this annual circuit of the sun seed, the body is electrified with new life and new radiance and the powers that make for eternal youth. Hence, those who walk on the path of first-hand knowledge are always filled with a rare and shining light. They never become one with the glory of that inner light, which they have become one with the glory of that inner light, which never lay on land or sea. Meanwhile, concomitant, to the sun cycle, each month at the new moon, there forms in the pituitary body a lunar germ. This moon seed follows the path of the moon. By the time of the full moon, it has reached the center of generation. The full moon therefore marks the crucial time of the month. In the body of a person living an ordinary life of the world, the lunar germ is dissipated and its life powers lost. In the consecrated aspirant, however, the lunar germ is conserved and lifted again to its home in the pituitary at the time of the new moon, where its forces are fused with those of the newly formed lunar germ. Now, at the summer solstice, for one treading the path of holiness, the true Christ Mass is celebrated in the purified body temple, for it is then that the 12 lunar germs, conserved through the year, are united with the solar germ. Their fusing place is the third ventricle, which is the bridge between the pineal and the pituitary glands. The third ventricle thus becomes the marriage bed in which the holy child, or union of the solar and lunar seeds, is conceived and born. It is also called a manger, the pineal and pituitary glands being the holy parents participating in the alchemical union. Such is briefly an outline of the fundamental occult process which underlines the rite of the Immaculate Conception. As previously observed, it is a work which extends over many incarnations before the aspirant is ready to know the full glory of this holy mystery, one of the highest ever to be given upon this planet. Early man was androgynous. Humanity became unisexed as the creative force was divided, half of it henceforth being used to build and feed the brain, and the other half for the generation of new race bodies. So people and math. During the earliest periods of human evolution, the sympathetic nervous system, the particular avenue for the forces of the cosmic feminine, was dormant. But as the ego descended further and further into materiality, the feminine powers resident in the sympathetic nervous system became largely dormant. After that, the ego worked for the most part through the cerebrospinal nervous system, which is the cornerstone of modern initiation. However, this unequal condition cannot go on forever. And so the symbol of the New Age is that of the androgynous figure of Aquarius, symbolizing the bipolarity of a new christened humanity, when the forces of the sympathetic nervous system, the feminine column of the body temple, is reawakened and revitalized through pure living. This involves the formation of a second spinal cord through the activities of the forces generated in the blending of the solar and lunar seeds. And when this is completed, a bridge of light will connect the masculine and feminine columns at the base of the spine. Then generation will have become generation. The feminine column is being built as the love of Venus is suspended by the higher spiritual force of Uranus, exalted in Scorpio, the sign of regeneration. As this tremendous regenerative power begins to operate within the body, generally a second bridge is formed between the two columns, which will span the throat center in the larynx, at which the mystic mason builder will find the use again the mighty creative power of the hitherto lost word, which is the full power of the exaltation of Mercury in Virgo is indicated. The full power of the exaltation of Mercury in Virgo was indicated. Like if Mercury was in Virgo and they were singing a song that was like the best ever, that's what it's saying that this is talking about, what that would feel like. Okay. When the dual force reaches the spiritual organs of the head, the pineal and pituitary glands, a third bridge is formed in the third ventricle. The body is then full of light And in such an illuminated temple, the aspirant is prepared for and passes into the supernal soul glory of the Holy of Holies, which is known enigmatically as the rite of the Immaculate Conception. Whew, get that in your understanding. Man, I'm going to have to read that like 5 more times. What's the rite of Immaculate Conception? Can you say that again? You're going to have to give me a minute on that one. Such was the exalted attainment of the great woman master of the mother of the Holy Jesus, who worked consciously on inner planes to assist him in preparing the most perfect body ever built on earth. It says builded. Perfect body ever builded on earth. Enveloped in the luminous glory of hosts of triumphant angels and archangels, heralding the new day of women's emancipation, and chanting mighty hosannas for the coming mastery, Mary, the perfect type pattern of the new age, was caught up in the clouds of light to welcome, without anguish or physical pain, the incoming of her divine Son. Oh, man, this book's getting good. Are you guys ready to move on? Are you ready to read the next chapter? I am so ready. Okay, let's go.